defined limit or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's approaching a number. It's true that x is approaching infinity, but that's not what this requires. This doesn't require that a is a number necessarily, right? It's already a little bit in like a section we're not going to cover today, but just since we have it up there. Why does L be a number? In this case, L is a number, it is 0. So this is defined, and this is called, this is a preview, a limit at infinity. As opposed to this is an infinity. It becomes infinitely large. And sometimes refer to it like that, yeah.
I thought as you go further down the x-axis, since it's an asymptote, it never hits 0. It just keeps
It doesn't. You're exactly right.
So
We do not require that this ever be attained. Just like when it was a hole here a minute ago, you're never going to reach that value because it's not even there in the graph. So it's the exact same thing here. You're never going to reach 0. It's absolutely true. But what is it heading towards, the idea? What's it heading towards? 0. It's still heading towards 0. That's all we want. What's it heading towards? Keep that in mind. All right. Now, the way I just explained all this was we required that it approach the same thing from both directions. Right? What was I said? Emphasizing both sides. Both sides. So there are slightly more subtle limits. There's a right-hand limit and a left-hand limit. Any questions before we mention the right and left-hand limits? Any questions all about limits? We just did a few examples to get the main idea. So we're looking a little more.
Try to open the chapter here.
Try to open what?
Chapter here.
The chapter?
Yeah, it does.
Doesn't come up?
Yeah, I think the script that you use in the workbook.
It may take a while to load, I don't know.
Open the interactive view. Hold on, click it again. Go back. Go back. Okay. Open the interactive view book. Try that. It just came down there. Anybody else have any trouble opening the ebook? Let me see this thing for a second.
There's some music
What you got? What all you got? You want all this stuff? Try going back into my math lab again. Where's my math lab? Try going back to my math lab.
You want to access the book, you get the same problem? How'd you get to that? That's not what you want. You want multiple libraries you want. That's why. All chapter 2. All sections. Now, where we want. You go to multiple transcript there, and it'll give you there. Yep. Any questions about what we just talked about? Yeah. Please, go ahead. Didn't work. Anyone else having trouble opening it up? Yeah.
It just doesn't open.
Maybe it's something to do with these computers. Doesn't need some sort of software. I don't know. You're having trouble opening up my computer, right? So left and right hand limits. So all this wants to do is talk about what happens if you approach from only one side. So this notation here is saying x approaches a, whatever quantity or infinity that is, from the right. Okay. So to here, x is approaching a from the left. So for example, say this is your function. This is f of x. We'll call this 2. 2, 1, 0. There. So we want to know the limit of f of x as x approaches 0 from the right, and the limit of f of x as x approaches 0 from the left. What will be your respective answers?
From the right, it would be 0, and from the left, it would be 2.
Absolutely. Go right there. Right. As x approaches 0 from the right, again, the little plus superscript, not a power, no plus power, right? It's saying approaching from the right, so as x approaches 0 from the right, you're writing down the curve where it's heading towards. It's heading towards that dot right there. It's never going to reach that dot. It's never going to reach it. It's heading right towards it. And what is the height of that dot? Right? The height of that dot is 0. That's what you're heading towards. As you approach from the left, so now you're heading towards 0. From the left side of 0. So that means you're moving down the curve this way. And what are you heading towards? That hole. You're heading right towards that hole, which is at a height of 2. So what is the hole? I don't care. What am I heading towards? I'm heading towards 2. So 2. So now, limit of f of x overall as x approaches 0. What are we going to say the answer is? Undefined. D and E. Because we said before it must head towards the same thing from both sides. And it does not. Right, it's heading towards 2 different values. Even though both the right and left hand limit exist, they are not the same thing, therefore the overall limit does not exist. Right? So another way a limit is defined is the limit of f of x as x approaches a equals L if and only if the limit of f of x as x approaches a from the right equals the limit of f of x as x approaches a from the left equals that same L. Okay, so what that's trying to say is, what does it mean for a limit to exist? It means the left and right hand limits exist and are the same thing. That's what it's trying to say. The left and right hand limits must be the same thing and exist. They can't be infinities. They must exist and be the same thing. And if they are, then the overall limit exists and is that same quantity.
Or just the bottom one that you wrote.
Say again. This says the same thing as this. These two things say the exact same thing. So for this to be true, for f of x to be approaching something in particular as x goes towards a, it must be that the left and right limits exist and are already that same thing. So that's why in this case, since they are not the same thing, the overall limit, as you push from left and right towards 0, since the curve is approaching 2 different quantities, there is no limit in that context. Yeah?